Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, Luann Nigara. Luann has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. Luann brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. Maria Viola-Kutruff is here with me today. Maria is the principal of Viola Interior Design, located in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. Over the last 14 years, Maria's work has ranged from designing custom furniture to designing office spaces to the renovation of entire residences. She is very active in American Society of Interior Designers PA East chapter. She is the immediate past president of its board of director 2015 to 16, and Maria has won 2 chapter awards, the 2012 Educator Award and the 2013 Presidential Citation. She received her master's degree in interior architecture and design from Drexel University, and today Maria teaches design at the Antoinette Westphal College of Media Arts and Design at Drexel University, and that's why Maria is joining us today. Maria and I have a great conversation about what it is to be an adjunct professor at an interior design university. You all know that we have interviewed both Shannon Leddy, who is an adjunct professor at FIT and New York School of Interior Design, and we've interviewed Dr. Ellen Fisher, who is the dean at the New York School of Interior Design. But in neither of those conversations did we talk about the process of becoming an adjunct professor, the pros and cons of becoming an adjunct professor, and that's exactly what Maria and I do today. So stay tuned while I tell you a little bit about our sponsor, and I'll be right back to my conversation with Maria. My great thanks to Mydoma Studio, our podcast sponsor. What is Mydoma Studio? Well, you know, as busy interior designers, that running your own design firm isn't just about designing. That's what we talk about here all the time, right? There's managing contracts, clients, payments, products, and a million other things that you have to have locked down. It is challenging, but you must run your firm efficiently so you can do the fun, creative things you enjoy so much. And that's where Mydoma Studio comes in. I'd like to invite you to try Mydoma Studio today. Go to mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business. Designers around the world are using Mydoma Studio. What about you? Let Mydoma Studio help you organize the business side and spend more time on the designing side of your firm. I'd also like to share with you that Vin, Bill, and myself are so impressed with Mydoma Studio that we have invested in this company. So see for yourself what Mydoma Studio can do for your interior design business. And if you visit using the link mydomastudio.com/a-well-designed-business, you will receive a special offer just for you as listeners of the podcast. Hey, Maria, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes, I'm excited to let everybody know that we're actually connected through my good friend, Kathy Hinckley, who is now Kathy Hinckley Vance, celebrating her anniversary just this coming month. She is my friend from high school, and she happens to be your Dora Lee, now Dora Lee Robert Allen rep, right?
Correct. And she mentioned you, and that led to a connection.
Yeah, so I'm excited. She's a good egg. She's a talented designer in her own right. She's also a textile designer, but she left the rat race to be a vendor rep.
Yes. So we deserve to give her a shout out.
Exactly. And don't think I haven't many times daydreamed about, couldn't I just be a vendor? Not just be a vendor rep, but you know what I mean. It's a little different.
I do know what you mean.
It's a little different when your client is a sure thing than the rest of us.
We're slugging it out, right?
That's it. And of course, we have our option to discontinue certain lines and so forth like that. But it is a little different that when the rest of us, we have to earn a new client every single time, and we have to earn their new business every single time. And so I don't take anything away from vendor and road reps, but just, face value, it's a little different. But Kathy happens to be a very, very, very good one because she knows both both sides of it, right? She understands the retail. She had what used to be a designer for model homes and worked as in the field. So that's a great rep. I always find those reps so much more in tune with what we go through, right?
They are. If they know both sides, they're much better at navigating and managing any kind of little glitches that come up in the process.
Because they have the appreciation. Anyway, okay, so here's the thing. Our focus, you and I today, is a conversation of surrounding. First of all, I said it in the introduction, you not only have a very successful interior design firm, but you're also an adjunct professor at Drexel University in the interior design department.
Correct.
And so I thought, we have had two conversations, as you know, with Shannon Leddy, who's an adjunct at FIT and New York School of Interior Design, and Dr. Ellen Fisher, who is the dean at New York School of Interior Design. But it's been a year, and I always say sometimes you hear something from somebody and you hear it a different way from somebody else, light bulb moment. So I think it's a good time to get back, and I was glad that you two cooked this up and reached out to me.
Yes.
So Maria, I have a couple of questions for you regarding your role as an adjunct professor at Drexel University. I feel like, of course, Dr. Ellen Fisher set me straight on why it's important that you as teachers, when you have those students, those 4 years, to really teach as much as the design as you can to them, and as much as you would love to, and you do always have probably at least 1 or 2 semester courses of the business end of design. But there is a particular reason. She straightened me out on it. You share your thoughts on why you feel that the way the curriculum is set up is valuable to interior design students.
Well, so the curriculum has a very deliberate path and role. And one of the roles of the curriculum is to make sure that the students are really, really exploring their creativity. We want them to think out of the box, and we are pushing them to explore new technologies, new materials. So we have to limit the amount of business information and budget information in the beginning of the program at the very least, because we have to allow them to really explore what design is all about and the major principles of design: proportion, scale, ingenuity. So the thought is let's hold back on restricting them with a budget, like I said, at least in the beginning of the program and their major classes, so that they can look at things in a very creative way. And yes, there needs to always be talk of business. And I do that in my classes. I always try to give them hints and tips. But in the beginning, we need to allow them to explore their creativity and think outside of the box.
And it's funny because in the conversation with Ellen, she said very much what you said, but the proof was just proven in what I said a moment ago. Sometimes you hear the same thing by a different person in a different way, and you get a new thought or an idea from it. And that exactly just happened to me right now. So what she explained to me was that there were so many disciplines within design that was important to, as a university, to present to a student. You want to present to them hospitality. You want to present to them green design. You want to present to them residential design. And then, of course, all the disciplines that go into that, like you said, scale and proportion and learning CAD. But you know what's funny is I know that she knows it. I know she understands it. But I just heard a different layer in the way you described it. It never occurred to me before that if you put real world parameters on even students, then even in a fake environment, right? In other words, if you impress upon them real world parameters of budget, specifically what you just said, in the classroom environment, then I hear it. Then you block their brain, their mind from wandering and just conjuring anything that they can think of out of the box. And of course, one day they'll be in the real world and they'll have the same amazing idea, and the client will be like, you're out of your mind because I don't have that kind of money. But what your point is that you don't want to stifle that at the beginning of the learning experience. You want to put all that in their brain, in their arsenal, so that one day when they have the opportunity and a client has the budget, or even just to think about the ways to modify that grand idea they had towards budget. So that's a very interesting take, and I did not pick that up, and I'm sure it was my deficiency in not picking that up.
Well, you think about when you're first introduced to something, you're learning the basics first, and then you have to take the leap into the next parameter of the skill, which is in design. Once you graduate and you get a job, then you're taking that leap into learning, hopefully, if you have a good boss and you're working for a firm that allows you to be exposed to different things, you're learning a bit about budget then. And, the brain, I look at the brain as it becomes more and more agile as we use it, especially as we use it in a certain discipline. So when you are first stepping into the program, you are just trying to figure out which end is up. Mm-hmm. And if we throw too many things at you at once, one part of your brain is going to completely shut down. Right. So our goal is to get you to learn as much as you can about design before we start introducing budget.
I love it. I have had honest to God, both Shannon and Ellen had straightened me out. Before that, I had a very strict bias against the curriculum taught at design schools, thinking, why would you leave them hanging? But it is so clear to me now, and this layer adds another layer of this discussion adds another layer of clarity for me. And I like it. I like the idea of it. If I had a child that was going into interior design school, my brain is completely turned around on it. It's like, yes, just teach them everything. Every yes. part of the creative process and the technical process, and then make sure, if it were my kid, I'd be like, okay, now when you come out, it's important to find a good, reputable firm that's profitable and learn everything you can from them. I remember, I believe it was Lynn K. Leonidas who, in her journey in the first couple of positions that she had, she was aware that she was an interior designer and that she was, given opportunities to create and design. But she specifically said how every position she had, she always made sure to understand the back end. How was the admin of it done? And that really, really made it so that when she launched her own firm, within a year, she was up and running and profitable and had an understanding of what she was doing. I'm sure every year she gets better at it, but it wasn't the deer in the headlights, like, oh, let me just open up a firm, and what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And so, like you said, that those first positions are important, but also the caution there is to don't just get in and hunt down memos. Get in, hunt down memos, and then be the fly on the wall with that principal or the senior designers in the firm, right? And try and learn. Now it comes your education for the business side of it.
Correct. And sometimes that's why it's great when you get out of school to work for a smaller firm where they're going to, all hands on deck. Mm. And you can go to the principal and say, listen, can you clue me in onto how you are working the invoicing or how you communicate with the client about budget? And because frankly, if you work for a really large firm, you may not get that opportunity.
You're too many layers away,
There's
right?
too many layers away. And if I can just kind of have 2 feet into the conversation we were having a minute ago and the conversation we're having now, I would say that, if I go back in time, we won't say how many years, to when I was a design student. I look
you
back
don't tell,
now,
I won't tell.
I look back now and I think, thank goodness they pushed me on the creative end and not on the business end. Because let me tell you, when I am standing in a room with a client, I can pull on that knowledge and say to them, you know what I think would be great? You know what we're going to do here? And I can spit out, very interesting solutions to sometimes difficult problems for them.
Right.
And what I would say in the business sense is my advice to all design students, and if I have to repeat this, I will, take a business class. It does not have to do with design.
Right.
Get yourself a basic business class, accounting, finance, something. Take it at your local community college. But, and again, it doesn't have to be provided by your design program. In fact, I would say it may be better if it isn't.
Right.
Because then you are getting a much broader scope and tentacles that reach into all aspects of design, not just the design discipline.
Right. I love it. I think it's a great idea. And I remember Ashlina Kopasta said the same thing. She had, took the design classes, but after the fact, she went ahead and took all sorts of classes in business and accounting and different things like that, admin, so that she was prepared to run a business. It's a great idea. So, okay. So here's the thing. You have your design firm. It's successful. Yet you make a choice to be an adjunct professor at Drexel. Where is that for you? What is it? Is it about I won't even take a guess. You tell us why you choose to do that, Maria.
So I love helping other people, and you couldn't be in design if you didn't. Mm-hmm. And that also migrates into helping students. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy introducing them to the principles of design, but I also get a lot out of it. It helps me keep my finger on the pulse of what's coming up on the horizon, what younger people are thinking about, their attitude towards design and how that translates to the real world. It's fascinating. If you're in design for a really long time and you have no connection to young people, I encourage you to figure out a way to connect to young people. And when I say that, you have to be realistic about it. But the point I'm trying to get across is that it helps you not get stale or stuck in your ways or the old ways of doing things. If you stay open to new ideas and the new ways of doing things, you are going to be relevant. Unfortunately, I do see some designers that have been at it for a long time. I can tell they don't have a connection to the new generation. And I want to say to them, it's just, you got to shake things up.
Right.
You got to shake things up. Or the clients they're going to think, stale, been there, done that, no thanks.
Right, and it's twofold, I would imagine. It's not only the younger generation is imparting to you by, for instance, you task them with, creating a design space or whatever it might be, and the things that they probably come up with from an aesthetic standpoint are like, whoa, okay, that's not your mama's designs anymore, right? Exactly.
That's right.
Right.
That's
so
right.
so that's one way that I would imagine that they keep you on your toes and keep you informed with what the trends are. But then also just like the technology way, right? You cannot be standing there leading a class of 20-something interior designers and not understanding the latest technology, because that you would lose credibility with them.
That's absolutely correct.
Right.
So I have to be able to have a dialogue with them. And that dialogue is going to be successful if I am aware of current technologies. Now, do I have to know them inside and out?
No.
No.
You have to know what it's called.
I have to know
I heard of
that technology is called and what it can do.
Right.
And then the other thing, if I can share a little story with you.
Sure.
So several years ago, I had a student, and he was, if this guy doesn't end up famous, then I don't know who would in the design world.
Fun.
Because he is an exploratory thinker. He was, talk about out of the box. And I know some other instructors had difficulty with him because they thought this guy is way out there. But I I thought, hey, this is exciting. And who says he can't do what he is doing here with these designs? Why not? There are people nationally and internationally who would pay a lot of money for these types of designs. They're not for everybody, but there's a hat for every head.
Right.
So I would encourage him. And one day he turned to me. I hope I don't get choked up when I say this. He turned to me and he looked at me and he had tears in his eyes. And he said, "Thank you so much for letting me be me and letting me do this." He said, "It is such a relief to me." And he like patted his chest when he said that. And I said, of course, that is what I'm here to do.
Isn't that
so
something?
That was very gratifying because I think he might have been getting pushback. And I felt like he thought, okay, I'm getting permission from my teacher to do this.
Yeah, because if he is truly an innovator, an out-of-the-box thinker, all of them, anybody, I don't care who it is, if you're talking about Thomas Edison or Henry Ford or whoever it is, they all were told, no, this is silly. It takes somebody to be forward-thinking, out-of-the-box, and it almost always takes that same thing, one other person, to see them and to say, it's good, keep going, right?
Yes.
That's fun. That's an exciting thing. I have a thing on my vision board in front of me, and one of the things on it says, the things that make you weird as a kid will make you great tomorrow.
That is so true.
Isn't it so true? Yes. For me, it's that I was 10 years old and I used to read books on salesmanship. So
wow, look at you.
Yeah, that's my weird thing as a kid. And when I saw that, I was like, see, that's what happens.
Yeah. I mean, why do what everyone else is doing? Right. We're in design. We are supposed to, I say to my clients, look, I'm here to introduce you to new things, and I'm here to take you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
have fun. And you got a front row seat to all of it.
Yeah.
Now tell us how. So you go into it because you like teaching, you like sharing, you want to stay relevant, you love the connection with the younger generation. What would you say? Do you have opinions on, we see all of those benefits. Obviously, I'm going to make a leap here that it's not this huge money maker, you know what I'm saying,
no.
right? But I can make an assumption, though, that it's probably a nice thing to fall back on as we hit recessions throughout our career, right? Maybe that's a plus, right? Tell us about some of the other pluses like that, because in case there's anybody listening that is thinking about, maybe I would love to do that too.
Yeah. So teaching, look, this industry has its quiet times, its crazy times. Sometimes those are unpredictable.
Right. The cycles of business. Yeah.
Correct. Will teaching ever make you wealthy? Probably not, especially as an adjunct. But what it will do for you, among the other things we mentioned, is it gives you something to say to yourself, okay, look, I'm a little slow right now, but I'm teaching. I'm connected. I'm bringing, look, some income is better than no income, right?
That's right.
So, and you cannot translate how much capital it brings you in terms of networking and connections. Luann, it is unquantifiable. Because you're not only connecting with your teaching colleagues, but when you bring in a speaker, you're making a connection there. When I phone the Philadelphia Museum of Art and say, hey, I'm bringing my students over, I'm connecting with the people there. When I call a manufacturer of a specialty project and I say, can I bring my students in for a tour? I'm connecting with people there. So the possibilities are endless. And to close your mind to that is to close yourself off to a whole other world of networking and connections. It's been incredible.
I think it's great. I think it's great. And you know what? You're right. I hadn't thought about those types of connections, but even, to visit the design center with your students and to have the different various managers of the fabric and the furniture showrooms to know you and come to have a relationship with you year after year. Because I know with WindowWorks, we do a lot of retail window treatments, but I've always tell everybody, we have a ton of our core business is also to interior designers. And I have actually gotten new interior designer clients from like fabric showrooms at the D&D building, where a designer will call me up and they'll say, la la la, and I'll be like, oh, how did you hear about us? And they'll be like, well, I was at the so-and-so showroom and I was just saying to the sales rep, that I don't know who to get window treatments, who to make my window treatments. And one of them actually, I think it was Holly Hunt, said, almost every day of the week, we're shipping fabric to this company, WindowWorks in Livingston. They must be good because all of these top designers are using them. Why don't you give them a call? And that's the same sort of thing. You might be a showroom manager, knows you year after year, respects you, likes you, and then has a colleague that needs a designer and will think of you first,
Absolutely. So. And when I go in there for my design business to that same showroom or that woodworking shop or whatever it is, I already have a connection there.
Right. That's
and they already know me on another level. And then the other thing I would point out is that your colleagues recommend you because some of your teaching colleagues are teaching full time and they do not want any more design work. So they're going to give your name to people who call them.
Right.
So that's the other thing. And then they will in turn promote you on their own level. So it's just, I can't say enough.
I love it. And the thing is, of course, you don't go into teaching interior design students as a marketing strategy. Let's be real. You go into it if you're inclined to it, if you have an interest in it, if you have a passion in it, and if you want to do it. We're just expressing all of the gravy that comes from putting in your hard-earned energy and time into doing it.
I'm glad you mentioned that because when younger designers approach me and they say, I think I want to teach, can you give me some guidance how to get my foot in the door? And I can expound on that in a second. But one thing I do say to them is, well, you have to have the desire to, on the most basic level, instruct people and take an interest in them.
Right.
Because if those basic qualities are not there, it's going to be torture for you and for the student.
Right. You really have to, and it's a special, it's like, to me, it's like nursing. Teaching is a special gift. It's like you either are inclined to do it and passionate about doing it and like to do it, or don't bother, because nothing's worse than a bad teacher.
Or a teacher that you could tell they just don't
phoning it in.
Oh my gosh.
Phoning it in.
You want a teacher. Yes, you want a teacher that is going to stand at the front of that studio, because we call our classrooms studios. Stand at the front of that studio and with enthusiasm and vigor, and they are going to want to spend some time with you one-on-one, because that's the other thing. In design, you are spending a lot of one-on-one time with students. You are not just lecturing. Oh my goodness. You are sitting with them. We call them crits, short for critiques. You are sitting with them every day, and you are looking at their plans, their designs, their choices for fabrics and furnishings. And you had better want to do that, because that is 80% of your time. So,
well, and the thing is, let's put ourselves in the place of the students. If somebody is in an interior design curriculum, it's because they're passionate about it. It's not like a required course. It's not like when you find somebody in their English course. Somebody could be truly loving English course, and other persons could be there just because it's required by the university to take it. So those students aren't generally going to be phoning it in, and to be a teacher, a professor in front of them phoning it in, how demoralizing for the students.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I think every teacher I had in design school was amazing. I don't really have a bad memory of a bad teacher.
That's nice.
So I can't imagine what that would be like. And the programs are very difficult. Drexel has one of the most difficult programs. So you're asking a lot of these students, and you better show up completely there, because you're asking the same from them.
Right.
And you better give it 110%, because you're asking the same from them.
Right. And talk to us a little bit about what is the criteria if somebody listening is thinking, I would love to do this. Are there basic criteria that a professional has to have in order to even apply for an adjunct professor position?
Yes. I mean, most design schools want you to have your master's degree.
Okay.
I certainly can't speak for every school, and I'm sure there's also some kind of, the program directors may make the final call on that, but that's generally what they are looking for, a master's degree in the program. The other thing, they would like to see that you have some real world experience, because you're only going to be a better instructor and more informative instructor if you have that real world experience. The other thing is that I know at Drexel, and I know that some of your other guests like Ellen and Shannon, they mentioned the same thing. Drexel prides itself in having instructors that are doing the discipline every day, every week. They're in the trenches, because that just adds such a terrific layer to the student's experience. If they can hear from their professor, their instructor, their teacher firsthand what is going on in the design world, right, and in a working capacity.
And then what about the nitty-gritty of it doesn't sound like you have to have any prior teaching experience or any teacher credits. You need to have your interior design, depending on the location of the school, the school's requirement, a master's degree, but you don't have to have. So I'm more questioning if I'm listening and I'm thinking, I want to do this. What else do I need to know?
You do not need your teaching degree. No, you do not.
And so let's get further into that. Say I'm loving this idea. I'm thinking I would like to try it, and I'm going to reach out to one of the universities in my area, but I've never put together a classroom curriculum or plan. Don't worry about that. You come in with your credentials and your work experience and your degrees, and then the school usually will say, this is a typical curriculum for this class that we're hiring an adjunct for. Of course, once you're there in a semester or two, you make it your own. But do you have to have put together a curriculum for a particular class too?
So let me tell you how that works. So you're going to come into the teaching realm one of two ways. If there's either going to be a job posting, and they're going to list very specific credentials that they're looking for, and you're going to go on a series of interviews. However, that was not my experience. My experience was that someone saw me speaking about design, and they came up to me and said, "Would you be interested in teaching?" And I was like, "What?" Yeah. But more often than not, Luann, the way it happens is very organically, especially on the adjunct level. Full-time, it's a little bit more about a job posting, a series of many, many interviews within the department. If we are to just speak about adjunct right now, then what typically happens is you dip your toe in the water by being a guest juror. So another instructor, another professor will say to you, "Hey, my students are about to embark on their midterm presentation, and I need some jurors to give them constructive feedback that will, eventually siphon into what kind of grade they're going to get, and how it's not going to directly, you're not asking the jurors for a grade, but you are asking them for very critical feedback. And what the student is getting from that, of course, is they're getting someone else's opinion and thought process other than their professor and instructor. So what usually happens is we're going to invite people that we know or that we have at least some familiarity with, that knows the design industry on some level, to come in and sit through a midterm and sit through a final. And the professor we're listening. We're listening to how you speak to the student. We're listening to the constructive criticism you're giving them. And we're listening to the advice you're giving them and your thoughts about design. And we are thinking in our head, he really is giving them good advice. Okay. And they really know what they're talking about. And this person is the real deal. Okay. And we're going to invite you back. And then eventually what typically happens is we may say to you, hey, there is a class coming up. And this is going to come usually from the director of the program. Mm-hmm. There's a class coming up. Would you want to teach it? And so as you can see from the description I just gave, it's a very organic process. But the great thing about that is the people on the front line, the professors, are getting firsthand exposure to how you relate to students, what your thought process is, and if you would be a good teacher or not. And then we're going to go to the director of the program and we're going to say, hey, you know who you should talk to? So, and then some of the formalities going to step in. You're going to provide your resume. You're going to provide, if you have taught anywhere before, have you given any speeches publicly? Have you given any lectures? Because let's face it, you have to be comfortable speaking in front of people to be a teacher. Right. And you have to know what you're doing. Then once you're asked to teach a class, yes, you're going to have to come up with some of the curriculum.
And what do you, okay, so I had like 90 questions in there. So first of all, I just want to recap. So the first thing is that if you've graduated from interior design school and you actually know you want to pivot and that you want to make your career teaching, then that's a different conversation. That's a more formalized track, and maybe you do have to figure out if you need some teaching credentials or whatever, but we're not talking about that track for now. So what we're talking about is somebody who's got some experience and is thinking, I've always admired the people who are adjunct professors. How did they get into that? And what you're suggesting is this is one of the ways. Reach out to colleagues who are adjunct professors, offer your time and a presence to be a juror. And basically what you're saying is cultivate a relationship with the university. I mean, honestly, that's exactly what you're describing, okay?
Absolutely.
And then whether they end up tapping you or you end up after a couple of opportunities to be together with them, you put the bug in their ear. Hey, I'd love to know if there's a position that would come open. So I like all that. The only part that my brain gets a little wiggy on is if I know I can speak in front of a class, say I have the passion for it, but I really have not written a curriculum. What do you do? Do you just think back to when you had that class, because I get very technical and get very specific, and I like to be prepared. So my brain would be like, yeah, that's a big part that's missing here. So, like, I'm not just going to show up in September. Is there the years before curriculum that I would get my hands on, like in July? Okay, and then I can do my own touch to it. And okay. Yes. I just, I have to have a roadmap.
As an adjunct, they're not going to just going to throw you in the deep end of the pool and be like, good luck, because that's not going to benefit the university either.
Okay. Good.
So what they're going to do is they're going to say to you, there's one of two things that could potentially happen here. They could say to you, curriculum's already done. I want you to study it thoroughly, come back with any questions. But basically, it is what it is, and you're just going to help teach it. And you say, okay, great. And then you're probably going to have a couple of meetings with the person that you're going to teach with or that has taught it before. And they're going to, shed some light on some of your questions, and you're going to go through everything with a fine-tooth comb.
Okay.
The second approach is, and again, I'm still talking about adjuncts,
right.
is that you might get a shell of a curriculum that says, okay, here is the curriculum we've used in the past, but we think it needs tweaking and we want some new, fresh ideas.
Okay.
And they're going to look to you for those new, fresh ideas. And those new, fresh ideas are going to come in the form of, it could be, well, we're going to stay with these five objectives of the course, but I'm adding 6 and 7, or we're removing objective 2, 3, and 4, and I'm inserting a new 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
And you're going to get approval on that. You're
right.
not just going to do it and be like, hello, class.
Right, you're in charge of Drexel University now.
I've completely redone this course, and I hope you like it.
Right. No, I like that. That's, what, that might be, I have to say, that it's, to me, that whole conversation falls under the category of what you do every day, you understand and think it's clear. And for me, it was like, yeah, but what is the difference there? Like, what is that connection? Because I can have all the other criteria. I can be passionate. I can be a talented speaker. I could be a knowledgeable designer. But if the entry is that I have to develop my own curriculum, that might stop in my tracks. Yeah. And so I like that. And, like I said, it might be obvious to all the adjunct professors out there, but it wasn't obvious to me. So I figure it's not obvious to somebody else.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, no, I like that because you know what? A talented, passionate interior designer that has an interest in this certainly can take the bones of any curriculum and put their twist on it, either executed it, as you said, exactly the way it should be and they want it to be, or put their own twist on it. There's no question. But to me, it's just that basis, that bones there. So, yeah. Okay. So that's good. Now I just have a couple of final questions on the, the time involved. So if somebody is thinking, I got this down, I could do all this, but I still do have my interior design firm. Say you teach one class. Let's just say it's one class a semester. You have the hours spent in the class, and then you have the hours outside of class in visiting places, like you said, with your students, and your own work for preparing for a lesson and reviewing, the work turned in by the students. What are you looking at a week, Maria? So first of all, one class is how many hours in real time in the classroom, and then what do you say in the rest of your week that you should be prepared in order to do 110%? So
those are excellent questions. Again, each university is different. So I'll, for purposes of this, I'll speak to what Drexel's studio time is. So in the classroom teaching, you are going to be there 2 days a week, 3 hours each time. So that's 6 hours real time. Right. Then outside of the class, you're reviewing students' drawings, you are marking them up. If you've given an assignment where they have to do a brief research paper, you're reading through that, you're checking their facts. So you have to be prepared that it's not just standing in the classroom. There's time away from the classroom that you're dedicating to. Plus, at Drexel, we take our students on a day-long trip to the showrooms in Manhattan, and so that's not just a 3-hour day. That is that's a 12-hour day. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have to be prepared for that. Right. And there are times that I'm just too busy, and I have to decline an offer to teach because I'm my business, I'm swamped, and I've got a lot of clients, and I just cannot. I don't want to give half of myself to either my clients or to my students. So I have to make a mature decision to say, not going to be able to do it this term.
Okay, so 2 questions there. The first
Yeah.
is all of that extra, the preparing the lessons and the grading the lessons, for lack of a better way to describe it, just cut and dry. Outside of the 6 hours in a class, are we talking about another 6 hours, another 10 hours, another 15 hours? Forget the field trips and all of that. What do you think? Just real-time grading and researching and reviewing client work, student work?
Well, it can change from week to week, but we can safely say somewhere around 6 hours.
Okay, so it could go anywhere from 12 hours a week to probably 20 hours a week, depending on what's happening. So that's a good chunk of time. And then the other thing that I have a question on is you said sometimes you have to make a mature decision to decline the next class. So does that mean as an adjunct, you get to decide every September and every January if you're going to take a class or not? Or do you decide in September that, yes, you're going to be there for the whole school year? How does that work?
No. It's a term by term.
Oh, so that's
basis.
flexible.
Absolutely. It's
I
very
didn't know
flexible.
that. That's
Yes.
interesting. And there's no bias against you if you say no 1 or 2 semesters in a row. People aren't like, well, she's not reliable and she doesn't come back. Or it's, you get to know the personalities and they understand, and there's just enough of you all floating around that they put people in and out of positions.
Again, another great question. You should be an interviewer.
You see, that's the other thing that makes me really weird. That's been really making me good at my job is I've always been the questioner. And my whole life, this has driven everybody crazy. And now it's working in my favor.
I love it. It's awesome. So the answer to that is you have to build up your credibility first.
Okay.
As a new adjunct, would I be saying no?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
But I've been at
good
this
inside
for a
track
long
information.
Time. Yeah. I've been at this for a long time. They know me. I would like to say I have street cred.
Right.
So I do have the ability to do that, but I would not recommend that for when you're just, I wouldn't be a no person. I would be a yes person in the beginning.
That's awesome. It makes perfect sense. But again, I have to ask it. So
Sure. Of course.
No, I love it. So let's just recap everything we talked about today. What we said, number one, is that it is entirely possible if you have a passion to share and teach and express your passion for design with other people, that to have a full-fledged, full-service interior design business, which is what you have, and everyone should go to your website to see exactly what I'm talking about. Your work is beautiful, Maria, by the way, and all of the links will be in the show notes and so forth. But it is possible to have I don't want to say a side hustle, but a corollary career, a secondary career side by side in the same track as your design career as an adjunct professor at a university. And you get a lot out of it. As the teacher, you're exposed to new technology. As the teacher, you're exposed to new technology. As the teacher, you're exposed to the new ideas in design, and you keep yourself relevant and fresh that you bring to your interior design business. And then your students, they benefit from working and dealing with somebody who has real world experience and can say, this is how it is on paper, but I have to tell you, my client last week, this is how it went down in real life, right?
Yes, and the students love that.
Exactly.
I love to share.
Exactly. I know Shannon has said that to me many times as well. So I like all of that. Then the other thing for us to be aware of is that you're not going to get rich as an adjunct professor, not at least in dollar bills, okay? But you'll get rich in person. But it is a nice little safety net, because when you're new in business, and if you're a designer that's in business under 5 years, you have not experienced a recession yet. And for those of us that have been in business 20, 30 years, we know that there's recessions. We know that another one is always going to come at some point. And a good business person looks ahead and figures out all the different tools in their shed in order to survive a recession. And this is a viable tool because it becomes an income, and it becomes actually a marketing generator for you with the relationships that you build in the industry and with your colleagues. So, I think it's awesome. And then the steps to becoming an adjunct, we just laid them out. You have to have your check with whichever university for whatever minimum degree you need, and then start to cultivate the relationships. It's just like everything else.
Yes.
You just start to get to know people, give value to them, volunteer to be a juror for them, bring something to them, and then show your love for teaching and design. I think it's awesome. And I love that it's a whole different way that we discussed it with in contrast to Shannon and Ellen. It's a different take on having a conversation with an adjunct professor. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I love it. And maybe it gives the students out there listening a little glimpse into the life of an adjunct professor, because I think the one thing that is completely clear is that it is not a job that you phone it in. If you have a family, you have your own business, and then you have this, 15, 20 hours a week on top of it, that don't forget that these are people that are coming to do this with and for you because they're inspired to do it. They want to do it. So it's sort of like, maybe a little wake-up call for people and students to realize that you really are giving up something in order to be there. I love it.
Correct.
I love it. I love it a lot. It's so good. So I really do appreciate your spending your time with us. Tell everybody how they reach you. Maybe do you mind if there's anybody that is curious and has any more questions about this path? Do you mind if they reach out to you, Maria?
They can absolutely reach out to me. So certainly they can email me at an easy email address to remember is Maria@ViolaInteriorDesign.com.
Love it.
So simple.
Yeah.
And they can call my office, and my assistant will certainly get their information, and I can call them back.
I love it. And if you're in the Drexel University area, check it out and maybe stop by and meet Maria, right?
Absolutely. I'll take you out for some coffee.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And we didn't even get into your business, that you're a past president of ASID, East PA. You have a lot of cred there. There's a lot more that we could have gone into, but I do value this conversation. I like the idea of talking about this aspect of it, and I appreciate your bringing your expertise to us, Maria.
My pleasure.
So I hope you found that valuable. I know I have often wondered the route to becoming an adjunct professor in interior design, because many of the designers that I've been privileged to work with over the years here in New York City have all taught at FIT in particular. I'm thinking off the top of my head, we all know Shannon Letty. Then, of course, we've had Charles Pavarini on the show. He's also taught there. Layden Lewis is also taught there, and Richard Carpenter. This is just off the top of my head. I didn't even really think any further about it. And all of these designers all have their own firm, but each has at one time or another taught at FIT. And it's, as we said, if you have a passion for teaching and the time to devote to it, it can certainly be rewarding on many levels, as Maria so carefully and clearly explained to us. So I just thought, if I'm interested, then maybe you're interested. Alrighty, now keep in mind, we have our hashtag InstaCravet going on. Please tag me and Cravet Inc. with any post where you're featuring their products, and come out to see me at What's New, What's Next this week in New York City at 200 Lex. I will be at the Cravet showroom. I'm recording this way ahead of time, so I don't know what time I'll be there and what exactly is going on, so you have to be on our email newsletter list, which you can do very easily by texting DesignBiz, DESIGNBIZ, no caps, no spaces, to the number 444999. Okay, that's where all the up-to-date information will be, and also on social media, on our Instagram and our Facebook, both at Luann Nigara. All right, then 2 weeks from this air date, I will be at America's Mart in Atlanta. I'll be there with my buddies. I'll be there with Sarah Daniele, the CEO of My Doma Studio, Mark McDonough, the inspiration, the Wizard of Oz behind Tastefully Inspired, and Sandra Funk from House of funk. We are going to have a discussion on technology in design. And you know me, I'm going to ask them all the questions. What do we need to know? How do we want to maximize this tool, technology, in all its forms to make your interior design more profitable? All righty. And then we are going to be having a celebration at the brand new Kravitz showroom in Philadelphia. This is going to be on October 4th. So I'll be there for that. If you are in the Philadelphia area, I'm talking to you, Susan, and I'm talking to you, Shosh, just saying. I hope you will come to this celebration. Again, I'm recording ahead, so I'm not sure of the time, but it is October 4th. And Maria is going to be there too. So if you enjoyed Maria's interview and you'd like to meet her in person and ask her a little bit more about teaching at university, please come and join us at the Kravitz showroom in Philadelphia. All righty. Now, before I go, I want to read to you an iTunes review that I have. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to read this to you because if you have not left me an iTunes review yet, then you are going to understand why I love getting them. Here it is. This is from Stylist Manda. Hey guys, I'm a new e-designer and I have to yell out from the rooftops that this podcast is everything. If you are ever feeling lost, confused, or lacking motivation, you need to listen to this podcast. Don't believe me, just listen to 20 minutes of one episode and you will get it. She interviews so many experts from social media to website developers to top designers and gets them to share all their secrets. She breaks it all down and she is super encouraging, giving us newbies the secret sauce. Highly, highly recommend to you and to all of my designer friends. Okay, so do I have to tell you any more why I love getting these reviews? This is like high virtual 5. Seriously. These are very important to me. They're very important to me on many, many levels. They're important to me just, oh my goodness, like that's just awesome to read that. So it gives me tremendous gas to keep going and keep doing what I'm doing. But when I have a review like that, that really spells out how valuable it is to you in your interior design firm, and I stick that in front of a sponsor, it makes it a little easier, right? So you know what it's like getting your clients to leave a review on house.com or just write a testimonial that you can put on your website. Now I'm in that spot asking you to be that person. So I just want to say thank you to Stylist Manda. If I know you by a different name, please let me know. If I know you through Instagram by a different name, please let me know who you are. And I'd love to know what part of the country you're in, Stylist Manda, so that when I make my way to that part of the country, I can meet you face to face. Alrighty, so if you haven't left yours yet, please do. Thank you so much, everybody. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.